Now project.
And thank you, Ashley, for handing out. You notice we're having different technical issues going on right now. We are not live, but we are being recorded, so it will be out on the website and all of our media outlets. So I want to start today. Good morning, with the Lucknow annexation, PD and IMP. Thank you, Katie. The applicant is requesting approval of a plan development district for a proposed warehouse to be located at the intersection of Speedway Boulevard and Alligator Alley. It is 31, the PDD applies to 31.096 acres of the land currently owned by High on the Hog. And the property will be combined and then re-subdivided to, as is shown in the concept plan. You're gonna see, one second, that is how it's currently subdivided today, and it's going to be recombined. You see it's contiguous because it's adjacent to the Riverport Plan Development District. This is the concept plan they're asking for, a 385,000 square foot warehouse with associated infrastructure and parking. And the parcel on the rear will remain in the unincorporated county for the RV park. This is a photo of the access. And this is where the access will be, the main access for the warehouse. And it is where Alligator Alley turns off to go to Georgia. As you can see, there's the crossover there. You have a one-way going this way, and then one way goes back to Savannah, or then back left to Hardyville. So it's a awkward intersection. So the background: it is located outside of our current growth boundary established as part of our annexation policy for the city. We had a workshop on this back in June for council to discuss the feasibility of annexing, and gave them a number of points to work on. And you will see that as we go through this process on how they address those comments. One of the items was to have a joint city and county. Mr. Talbot, welcome.
I gotta leave early, that's all.
Okay, we're going to welcome our planning commission chair, acting as vice chair now. So, welcome. We're discussing the Lucknow Plan Development District. And welcome back. The request was that city and county get together and discuss some of the growth concerns and the growth boundary, as well as annexations in around the outer portions of our city. They needed to discuss future growth and make sure that we were working hand in hand and not fighting each other on this, or allowing for jurisdiction shopping. It was a well-attended meeting, and a lot of comments and ideas came out of it. So we also had coordination with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the Savannah Wildlife Refuge, for comments. That letter is attached in your packets. Stormwater management and containment of surrounding wetlands was also an issue that we want to talk about. Traffic concerns, as I mentioned before, and BJWSA's current capacity concerns. On our analysis, they are proposing a 385,000 square foot warehouse and associated infrastructure. Natural resource element of the comprehensive plan does call for some buffers and compatible uses to be developed anywhere near natural resources. That is a sensitive area with the wildlife refuge and other things going on in there. And in your staff report, we certainly hit on those issues. Stormwater protections and management. Once again, we are in the low country. We've heard it and seen it all, and we want to make sure that this is handled appropriately and that everything is planned to best fit the needs of our intent of our comprehensive plan. The land use element, we do have the Gateway Corridor overlay. We do have a number of different things. One of the things in the land use element, it does talk about our need for warehousing and everything. We, at this point, though, also have a lot of warehousing in place that is not occupied in that general vicinity. And we felt like this was going a little further outside of our growth boundary, so it may not be the most appropriate place. Transportation element, I've mentioned those transportation concerns and traffic concerns, and I'm sure the applicant will address that some more. Their submittal does say they meet SCDOT standards, but we were looking to make sure that we're going above and beyond as best we can in those areas where we have had concerns. Open space, their open space requirement is a little under, it's 20%. Our open space requirement's for 25%, and we want to make sure that we are keeping those open space, especially these sensitive natural resources areas, as I mentioned. Our recommendation is based on the comprehensive plan elements, which I've just gone over. Staff suggests Planning Commission recommend denial of the proposed Plan Development District to City Council based on the intent and standards of the comprehensive plan. I think that is the end of mine. I'll be happy to answer any questions. You want to go back to the concept plan? And the applicant representatives are here, and certainly I'm sure would like to address you if you would like their comments first.
Sure.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. I want to thank your staff for a great job over the last several months as we put this together. Very thorough, very responsive. It's made it very easy. So Brandon and Katie, we appreciate all that you've done. My name is Doug Smith. I'm with a company called Seafree Properties. We are based out of Atlanta, Georgia. We've got offices in Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, and Los Angeles. We are developers of industrial warehouse space. We've been doing it for 40 plus years. We don't delve into retail or office or other product types. We stay focused on industrial. And so we've done a couple of projects in South Carolina. We've done several projects in Georgia. We've been founded in 1984, 200 million square feet nationwide through our lifetime, currently 19 billion under development across the country. Some of that is build-to-suit product specific for users. Some of that is spec product, which is built similar to what we're wanting to do here, and then looks for tenants to come and occupy after you build it. We've worked with guys like Home Depot, Amazon, and PetSmart across the country over the years. Our capital partner in this deal will be a company called Clarion Partners. They are the third largest owner of industrial real estate in the country. They are institutionally based. Their real estate group is based out of Dallas, Texas. They've got, almost 950 buildings across the country, $41 billion in total value. This building will be in what they call their Opportunity Zone Fund. This site is in the Federal Opportunity Zone. And Clarion, like several other developers around I think GTIS is doing a building here in Hardeeville that's also focused on the Opportunity Zone. The good news is you've got a great institutional owner that's going to own this building for 10 years. They're not just going to build it and sell it. And they will have a professional property management team that will be on this building at all times. And they're a great owner. They're big and they've been around for a long time for a reason. So good owner of product, good looking buildings. And they're a great partner for us, and they will own the building for an extended period of time. So this is the master site plan. I added a couple of things later on in the thing, but if it's okay, I'll just walk over here. So the whole site is 50 acres, right? And it's currently owned by a group that's in Jasper County, and they are permitted and zoned for an RV park. And so for 250 RVs. And so if you look at some of the Google imagery, you'll see where they've kind of started that process, and they've put in some of their parking spaces, but they stopped, they came back, and they offered to sell the front 30 acres to us. And it was a widely competitive bidding process with several developers to come in and build a single warehouse building. I think the square footage of this building is roughly 2.5% of the total volume that you guys have sort of allocated to yourself currently of, I think, roughly 15 million square feet of current under construction and planned space. So it's a spec, but it is, I get it. It's a building, and it's big in size for where it is. And then the RV park, whose representatives are here, are going to retain the back 20 acres. And so we reached an agreement with them to build them a driveway up here to access the RV park. And then our main access point will be down here for cars and trucks. One thing that I would add is that obviously from one of the points is the boundary with the refuge. As you'll see, basically we've got 1,200 feet of boundary here with the refuge, and the balance of our building is bordered by the remaining RV park. So we're a little bit further away. If you compare that to Riverport, I think they've got like 8,000 feet of linear feet of boundary with the refuge, and then HCP Partners, which was zoned and annexed further south, they've got roughly 4,500 feet. So we do touch it. I'm not trying to say we don't, but I think our exposure to it is certainly less than some of the other projects that have gotten done. And we do have a nice buffer of a pond in between what would be our building and the refuge. So obviously we've all got big decisions to make here, but I want to make sure that I know Katie and Brianna understand this, is that if this doesn't happen, this will be an RV. It will be a 250 spot RV park, and so hopefully we can work through all of this stuff. So that's kind of the site plan. That's the boundary conversation. Let me go back to my notes. I get lost a little bit here. As it relates to the growth boundary for the city, the question was asked when we came for the workshop with City Council as to why this parcel would be the only parcel west of Highway 17 and north of Alligator Alley and south of 95 that wasn't in the growth boundary. And so we did a little bit of research. I think Thomas and Hutton helped you guys with that process years ago. And we just simply asked them if in their thought process, was there a reason why they excluded it? And they did not recall any specific reason why they would have included it. So I know we're not in the growth boundary. It runs right along 17, right along our property. But I just think it was missed, or I don't think there was a specific reason it was excluded. And if there was, we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to know that. Let's see. We can, as you guys ask questions, I've got Doug Faircloth here with me, who's with Coleman and Company. He's our civil engineer, and we can dig into any questions about the stormwater. He's a little bit more adept at answering those questions than I am, but we can dig into those. As it relates to the Gateway Corridor, we totally agree that as you enter and leave cities, that you should have good-looking gateways into those cities. I think that's very important. But we think that certainly a Class A, good-looking industrial building that's still going to be well shielded from the road with undisturbed vegetation is as good of a look and feel that you're going to get versus maybe an RV. So, and one thing I just thought about is that we're happy to work with the city if there's some sort of signage that you would want to do relative to Hardyville and coming in or going out on our property. We'd be happy to work with you to create some sort of entry signage or something that would be nice, and we could pay for it. And after we take Brandon on the trip to the waterfall, and so if we can be helpful in that way for the Gateway perspective, we're wide open to that. So please let us know. All right, let's flip to the next thing. Let's go through. So open space plan, Brandon mentioned that we're at 20%. By our calculations, based on what we're given, we're at 38%. So Brandon, we definitely want to get you together with Doug, and let's go through this thing, because I read that in your report, and we think we're calculating it properly. If we're not, then we definitely need to look at it. And I think what your 20% may be based on is the total 50 acres and not just our 31. Maybe, I don't know.
It was in the text.
Okay.
So we just took it from your document.
Yeah. Minimum of 20%.
I think the minimum is 20%, but I think we're currently at 38%.
But the text,
Doesn't state it that way.
so what we have to go by is the text, because that's the zoning we're adopting for the property. So you would need to update your text to show that you would be at, if you're gonna be at 30-some%, put that in the text. Or if you wanna say at least 30%, put that in the text. But otherwise, you could come in with a site development permit and we couldn't enforce.
100%. It'll be fixed. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize that we had made that mistake. That'll be corrected. That current plan right there is 38%. So we'll update the text accordingly. So thank you. Okay, let's. So utilities, right now the plan is to just so you know, and I'll let the seller speak to it. They're the ones handling it, but they are negotiating currently with the Water Sewer Authority to bring the water line down to the site. They're paying for it. So
Actually, correction, we had a pre-con yesterday, so it's
Can you
unchecked out.
come up and introduce yourself,
oh,
please?
sorry. No, John, go ahead. No. So I'll just parrot what he said. I knew that they were having the pre-con meeting with the Water Authority yesterday to start the process. Sounds like it went well. And so they're spending roughly $900,000 to bring a 12-inch, 18-inch water line, 18-inch water line all the way down to the property. So the water's going to come in here. We've got will serves from everybody but natural gas. Nobody has natural gas down here. Most of these industrial buildings don't. But they have a will serve letter from the Water Sewer Authority. We have one as well. And then obviously power, we have that. And then from a sewer perspective, we're going to have a lift station here that will handle ours and theirs, and then it'll come out and pump into the system to go back to the sewer treatment. And then if I believe that sewer station will be dedicated to the authority. Let's see. Okay. I tell you what, Brandon, would you go to that new one, the one with the close-up of the traffic? All right. So we hear your concerns. And look, the owner of the building has the same concerns. They don't want to go build a building that's going to create a traffic issue. And so we did a full traffic study. It's been reviewed. South Carolina DOT provided us with general approvals with some things that we have to do relative to the plan to make it work. And so right here, so this is coming 170 south, going across Alligator Alley. A decel lane that's actually already been built. It's already there. I saw it today. So it's got plenty of capacity for 4+ trucks in it. So coming down, there'll be a decel lane here to get them off of the highway and pull them in here. And then coming across from the port area from Georgia, we will construct another decel lane here that currently, I just drew 2 trucks, but you could easily get a 3rd truck in there. So we're building capacity for trucks to get in and out of the building. And then I know this is the concern here. This is 81 feet right here. So it's plenty of room for a truck to come out and get in and out how they want to share. It's wide enough to share, to come in. And then, you know, one of the main concerns of DOT and us as an owner is site distance. And so, you know, we analyzed all of the site distances here. And I did it again this morning, and if you come here, you know, this straightens out here. So it's not, I know we all think of this as, this is what the curve is, but when Alligator Alley or 170 comes across, it's very straight. There's plenty of site distance here, and that would have all gone into the analysis of the traffic study and with South Carolina DOT. So we hear your concerns, but we certainly feel like that we are creating plenty of storage for trucks to be able to get in and out. And frankly, I know everybody thinks that warehouses are 1 million trucks a day, and they're just typically not. I mean, I think if you ride around and see some of the buildings that at Riverport and some of the other buildings, they're not as much as you think they are. And so, but regardless, we think that from a storage perspective, with the decel lanes, we've provided enough storage for trucks to get in and out. And then right here, we have ample room for a single truck to come in and get out, and then another one to come in behind it. And again, kind of like that, this is plenty of sight distance here as you come out to be able to see down the road. So we think we have it handled. Again, we've gotten general approvals by South Carolina DOT, but if there's other things that we can do with the city to make it safer, or a perception from you guys to be better, you know, we're open to that, as long as it's, you know, something that's, I guess, financially reasonable without saying it differently. So the decel lane coming down 170 is already in. We'll do all the other improvements as part of our development. This is just what I was pointing out earlier, just the bordering with the refuge. Look, we totally respect the refuge. You know, I think it's one of the great things about our country is they do go buy big parcels of land that they reserve for wildlife and preservation. You know, but at the same time, the same federal government also has designated this area and this site as an opportunity zone to be developed, to create jobs, and to create taxable income for, you know, jurisdictions. So it's, you know, we think we're less impactful to the refuge than our competitive developments. And from my perspective, I think that this warehouse will have less of an impact from its users than if you had 170 RV vehicles sitting there idling, running, cooking, generators. This building in general will be very quiet. So I think the carbon footprint here will be less than what a 170 RV vehicles would be. So these are just some examples of Clarion buildings. Be very similar to what you would see on our site. And then I think just to answer some of Katie and Branna's points in their overview. Let's see. We were fine with creating some sort of shared access between the RV driveway and our driveway for emergency vehicles. We do that all the time. That's easy. We were fine working with you on the lighting issue. That's a requirement across the river in Savannah, so we're adept at doing that. I would say there was a point about maybe increasing the buffer on the back side of the building. If you would, Katie, if you would go back now. Try one more, see if there's one that shows my route. So currently there is that was great. Yeah, go back to that one. That was great. So currently there are 2 ponds here. More than likely through the development of this building, those will be combined to become even bigger. And then we'll build a pond over here. So my point to all that is we do have the 25-foot buffer between us and that pond, but then that pond also creates another large buffer with the future development behind us, which is controlled by the seller who's in the room, and they don't have any issue with what we're doing. So from an increase the buffer perspective, we think that what we have is code. And then what we also have is a big pond that's gonna also create some buffer area between them. And then we have a seller that isn't here to impose more on us. So, again, we're happy to work with the city if we need to on that, but I hope we're okay there. So that's all I got. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. We really do.
Let me start with our chairman.
Well, I have a few comments and questions.
Yes, sir.
First off, let me apologize for being late. Personally, I'm not against development, but I don't think this is the right place for this.
Okay.
I think that this belongs in the industrial park or river park. Secondly, your entrance is in the worst damn place, in my opinion, it can be. I travel that road a lot going to Savannah. And that is a dangerous curve. It's a dangerous intersection. And you can say all you want about having storage for trucks, but if you got a truck stored in between those two lanes, and I'm coming from Savannah, I can't see. I'm not gonna be able to see by that truck. That's a wrong place for that entrance. And just a comment, if the RV park is gonna be there, why are they willing to sell this off to you folks? I mean, to me, the whole project just doesn't fit with me.
Right.
Like I say, I think it belongs either in the industrial park or up in River Park where the other warehouses are. If that was going to be developed into, I don't know. I just don't see a warehouse that big in that location.
Okay. I think from the traffic perspective, I hear you, and I think that I get your perception driving through there. I do. I do think that coming from Savannah, the sight distance is a long sight distance.
I travel it, trust me,
Yes.
I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, me either.
But I travel that road a lot, going to Savannah, going to the VA and coming home.
Yep.
Sometimes I have to come back through and come up from the traffic light and come up and cross over. If you got a truck sitting there, I can't get through.
Okay.
I just think, I don't think it's well thought, and I don't think it's the right place. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I hear you.
So-
Thank you.
That's all I have, Jeff.
Brenna, can you show me a map of the current growth boundaries that we have right now? Are you able to, sorry to put you on the spot for that.
Katie's on.
Okay. I just want to see in relation to what we have, because I know we're getting ready to redo our comprehensive plan, if I have that right. I'm just curious to see what our current growth boundaries are in relation.
I'll find it for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk a little bit about it because the applicant did mention that Thomas and Hutton helped us on it. They helped identify some of the parcels, but council and a committee and everyone worked on the annexation policy, and they voted to adopt it as it was presented to them and where it is.
I didn't want to get anybody in trouble.
No.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a reason
I
from
just-
their perspective why it wasn't included.
No, I just want to say that council did spend some time on it. Our deputy city manager went through that policy, and it was a process. That's all. I'm not arguing with you either.
And that
by any
was,
means.
how many years ago?
A few years ago, I want to say no more than 5-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have certainly been reviewing it. Katie's pulling it right now. Computers are slow in our room today, obviously, with our technology issues going on.
Is that the new plan, though? Aren't we trying, is that what we're trying to update as well in the next year? Is that the same plan?
Well, our overall comprehensive plan is what we're working to update.
Okay.
The annexation policy and the growth boundary, we have been working on it, and we are not looking to update the annexation policy. We are, what
I
are
didn't
we,
know if it was all within that.
what we have actually come up with here and what was talked about at the joint meeting with the county and everything, that this is a not to build, not to go beyond, not a you have to build to line. That is another thing we wanted to make sure. It was, that's our boundary. That's what we want our boundary to be. That's what council had adopted. And that's what the intent of the city was. So here we go. This was the annexation presentation that he did at that meeting. And I think I went over it also with you at our joint planning commission meeting we had with Reginald and everything. So this is the, and I'll get the pointer here. This is the area down here. Where am I? Here, right in here. This is the area. Let's see.
Just that.
We always argue with each other about putting road names on maps, and I'll have to call somebody out on this one. This is the area. It did follow, for the most part, 17 and Riverport. It just cuts right off to where Riverport was already in the city at the time that this growth boundary. Had Riverport not been in the city, it may have been different. So I know we had concerns, but that Riverport was annexed in 2006. So long time ago. 2009 was when it turned into Riverport, but the property was annexed into the city in 2006. We do not go above the canal that is above Hilton Head Lakes, the BJWSA canal. There is the Okeechobee Club surrounds this area of the city. In the northwestern area, we do follow the Riverport boundaries again, or the boundaries of what was already in the city at the time. So that's where we were. We're not crossing 170, as you can see over here. And this area is Marine Plantation that's been has a conservation easement on it and been in place for a while. But we did follow 315 down in this area because of roadways concerns and stuff. That was what that was about. So hope that helps
Yes.
answer your question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and going back to the drawing of the development itself, you said it was 81 feet, correct? To park one truck in that one area crossing over?
Yeah, typical truck is 67 feet in length, cab and trailer.
Okay, I came up with 72, but
Okay.
we're hitting, if you're 53-foot trailer, sleeper, I don't know if they're day cab operations or
That's a good-
sleeper.
good point, yeah.
So, past career, I was worked for PepsiCo, so
Okay.
dealing with a bunch of different sizes of trucks. And I know it's about 15 seconds to properly enter an intersection.
Okay.
So obviously that's a concern that we have with that, or that I have
Right.
with that intersection. I always kind of think of that. And we love going down Alligator Alley, and the kids love seeing the alligators and whatnot. So, that's my main concern is getting out. Getting in, I don't see too big of a deal, but getting out is obviously a challenge right there and entering the traffic flow, because we all know once you get past the bottleneck of coming from either downtown Savannah or Port Wentworth, it's just like you're just trying to go. And those speeds obviously are pretty high. So I think that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick?
That warehouse is kind of close to what we already have warehouses. So that's not my big rub. I am very concerned about the traffic, but my biggest concern is it is out of our growth plan. Our policy we have to start adhering to our policy, and we have to quit changing things, not just in the industrial warehouses, but in our developments. I would like to see following a better plan, and I'm sure not going to vote for anything that's outside of that policy right now. If that policy gets changed, we can look at that again. But until it does, it's a no-starter for me now, because I have to look at the whole picture, not just this project, but everything that we're doing in Hardyville. I want to see infrastructure improved before we continue dumping cars and trucks on here. So get the boundary changed, and then would consider looking at it again. But until then, it's a no-starter. That's it.
Thank you. Of course, we're a recommendation committee. We're not an operational agency. And what we're dealing with today is not the annexation, it's the planned district. But I do have a question for you about the annexation. And I think you said that the owners of the RV park are here too.
Yes.
Well,
And we'd
for
like to
whoever,
speak.
yeah, for whoever, why is it that you're looking to annex the development area, and not the RV park?
Well, that's just personal choice by the seller. I think from our perspective.
Please come back to the microphone so
Sorry.
we can
Sorry.
get you recorded.
I'm so loud, though. I just figured I could pick it up from wherever. It's a good question, and I think I think that they've just chosen to stay in the county because they're already zoned and they're already permitted to do what they want to do in the county from an RV perspective. So they didn't want to restart the engine and go through the process. I think from our perspective, we did a lot of research coming into this, and the research told us that probably the best path would be to come through an annexation through the city. And so we chose to go that route. They've chosen to stay where they are because they're already zoned and permitted to do that. And so they didn't want to, have to restart the engine for them.
Okay. At one point here in your report that we got,
Yes, sir.
you say that the developer has environmental protection is a priority of the applicants.
That's right. Clarion builds their buildings to a LEED certification, which is reducing the carbon footprint of a building. Now, they do not go get the LEED certification because those are more expensive than the improvements that you have to do. So they look for locally sourced products. They look for locally sourced building materials. It's hard to build and I'm just being straight honest, it's hard to build a warehouse building but you can do it, and there are levers that you can pull, whether it's landscaping, whether it's the building materials, locally sourced, but Clarion does build their buildings, and it costs more money. I mean, their building's going to be more expensive than probably Clarius or some of the other groups because they're going to spend a little bit more on it because it's a corporate policy for them to build to LEED certification. They just don't go get the stamp because the stamp costs, I think, $250,000 to get, so they just don't go get it.
Okay,
And I'm happy to get you a list of those things that they would do in the building relative to LEED certification improvements over and above what would be in a standard warehouse.
I don't see anything in the plan that we have which doesn't address the building standards.
Right.
But nothing in here that's that is any environmental action beyond what is required by law.
Right.
We're going to meet the requirements of the department or the federal government. We're going to. I just wondered. Is there anything? What is it in the plan itself that shows any particular interest in environmental protection?
Jeff, I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, I do appreciate the
Yeah.
LEED standard. I think that's really important. We just didn't have any of that information.
And I think what I've said in there, and what I'll say again, is if there are other things that you've asked the other folks on the corridor to do that would be that would be helpful towards the environmental protection, we're happy to review those. And if we can incorporate them into our development, we're happy to do that as long as they make sense. But, you know, from our perspective, we think our open space is 38%, which is more than the 20% minimum. So I think that's certainly helpful. And in my personal opinion, I think this warehouse will have lesser of a carbon footprint relative to the refuge than the RV park will. And that's, look, I'm biased, but that's just that I think it will.
Have you had direct communication with the folks from the Wildlife Refuge?
I talked to Nathan. He and I had a conversation. The mayor asked me to reach out to him. I did reach out to him. We had a nice conversation. I think what he would like to see is the government buy that parcel and make it part of the refuge. But outside of that, he appreciated my call. He appreciated me letting me know what he was doing. And he may be in here. I don't even know if he's here because I haven't met him in person. But we had a very nice conversation, and he just said, look, there's really nothing. I don't have any jurisdiction here. There's nothing I can really do. I'd love to see it be part of the refuge, but we'd have to go buy it from the sellers, and I don't think that's in their budget to do that. But yes, we did have a conversation.
But it sounds like there was no accommodation or no agreement to do anything.
Certainly, he didn't suggest anything. He just said, look, I got no jurisdiction. I think he realizes that, you know, this corridor has become an industrial corridor, and you know, I think that between, you know, Salt and Riverport and then the stuff that's going in eventually at some point below us, I think he's just, you know, I think it's he's stuck between a little bit of a rock and a hard place.
Sure. And I wanted to make a comment about the opportunity zone issue.
Yes, sir.
And find out what your response would be. But, you know, the opportunity zone, of course, is not a planning kind of a zone. They were created based on poverty and job requirements and those sorts of things. It's a federal program to try to incentivize by tax reasons a developer to come in and build here
right.
rather than another place. Well, the only reason I mention that is, you know, from our perspective, the opportunity zone is really not one of our kinds of issues.
Right. Yeah, look, I appreciate that. And look, I think that, you know, Tim Scott did a nice job of creating good opportunity zones in the state of South Carolina. He created one around the BMW plant in Greer, where we've done a building with Clarion. And then, you know, down here, I think he saw the growth of the Savannah port and the future Jasper port. And I think he saw that sort of progress coming and, you know, set Highway 17 in as one of his preferred, you know, opportunity zones. So I think, you know, South Carolina is certainly, Georgia doesn't have very many, but South Carolina's got some really good opportunity zones. And look, it's been huge here. I mean, just look at what's been built thus far, and it's been really big around the BMW plant up in Greer, a market that probably didn't need an opportunity zone because that market, you know, hasn't had a problem to a certain degree attracting business and manufacturing and some other things. But I think here that's obviously it's here to cater to the growth of the Georgia port and the future South Carolina port.
Okay. That's really all the questions I have. I would like to say that, you know, the number of the commissioners have raised issues about the growth boundaries.
Right.
You know, it's one of the few things where the city has put its foot down and said, you know, we don't want to
Yeah.
further develop. And I think that, you know, I think that's really a major part of my thinking about this. So if none of the commissioners have any further questions, this would be the point in the meeting for public comment. Anybody in the public, anybody who's present, want to say anything, make any comments? Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone and state your name.
My name is John Sanford, and I take a moment of levity. I'm a 50% owner of High on the Hog, the seller. I can assure all of you I had nothing to do with naming the entity. That was my partner. Point number one. If you don't mind, could you turn to the utility plan? I just want to clarify something that Doug had said earlier. So I'll back up and a quick background on us. My partner and I are in the acquire, develop, permit, own, and operate RV park business. We now have 4, and we are under contract for a 5th one. The first one was in Statesboro, Georgia, currently 125 spaces. Started with 0, built out to 125. No more room for more growth there. The second one was Somerville, South Carolina. It was a rehab. We have 90 spaces there. Third one, just outside of Walterboro. It was another rehab, started with essentially 0. We have 50 spaces there. We're under construction here, and one of the things I wanted to clarify is, and then 5th, the one we're under contract on Interstate 75 in South Central Georgia is be about 130 spaces, and there's also a total rehab. So just to clarify something Doug said earlier, we are already way neck deep in this. We have already spent approximately $900,000 at the request of our wonderful Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority, extending the 18-inch water main. And that work is done actually a little over a year ago. It's in the ground. There's fire hydrants there. One of the pictures actually shows it. The other thing is, I didn't mean to speak out of turn just a moment ago. I want to clarify something Doug said. So number one, the infrastructure from a water and sewer perspective, from a water perspective is there. There's always a sewer line on this side of 17 that we will be tapping into with their blessing. I attended a pre-con meeting yesterday for the installation of the water and sewer, which is that L-shaped area in the back. That was at 1:30 yesterday, and we can stick a shovel in the ground. Our subcontractors are planning to start tomorrow, putting water and sewer and the wet well and the pump station, all that. So that is happening now. The bigger point I wanted to make, I just kind of wanted to quickly touch on 3 quick things now that you've got just a minute of our background. In each of these, the parks that we own, this will tie to point number 1. I don't want to bore you with the numbers, but this is leading to an important point. In Statesboro, started with 0, we're at 125. In Somerville, started with 0, we're at 90. We're just wrapping up a 1.5-year process to go from 90 to approximately 200 sites in Somerville. We're at the very end of that. And in Walterboro, we are just about to wrap up the permitting process to go from 50 to 80. So my point being there is, this is happening, what Doug has mentioned, the number of 170, and that we are currently permitted. We have a permit with Jasper County to build 250 sites. We're focusing on the first 80 in the back, but forget what I say, what we have experienced and what we have done is we've just seen, thank goodness for us, the demand so we will build the other 170 spaces if this warehouse deal does not happen. So I wanted to, and from a traffic perspective, this brings up several points. And I might be stating the obvious, but forgive me if I do. This is not a growth or no growth, or this is not a traffic or no traffic. This is what kind of growth and what kind of traffic. It would be, in my opinion, and I'm in the business, a multiple of the footprint to have 170, the moving parts of 170 RV spaces, those are 170, not always, but generally families. And just the moving parts with all of that, cars in and out. You may bring your RV in, but generally we see an average of 2 cars per RV. So do that math, 250 spaces times 2, that's 500 cars, roughly speaking, in and out every day. So from a traffic perspective.
But your entrance is further up 17.
Our entrance is
It's
exactly.
not down on the curve,
Yes, sir. Yep.
my point.
That our entrance is where their entrance would be. So in other words, if this transaction doesn't happen and we build out our additional 170 spaces, our entrance, our current permitted entrance is right here. So.
We have a
We
laser
have
if
a
you
pointer,
can
you
see.
can come
Oh,
back.
I like to walk in.
We need you by the microphone, please. It's just the green button right there.
Okay. So our entrance is right there. So from a traffic perspective, it is my experience that there will be there will be several times, not like percentage-wise, 2 or 3x more vehicles moving in, and these are, and again, I don't want to speak against my own business, but to own an RV, you do not need a CDL, you do not need to be professionally trained, and we are seeing RVs in our industry, they were 20 and 26, 28 feet. Now, most of the contractors and families that move in RV parks have 40 and 42 foot long.
But the other gentleman, when he gave his talk, said that your entrance was up on the north end.
Correct. If this, yeah, to be clear, if this transaction does happen, then our entrance would
Yeah,
be there.
right there.
So there would be no crossing, crossing traffic. Right now, as it's currently permitted, there would be crossing traffic there, meaning RVs would be crossing oncoming traffic. Under the scenario that if this transaction takes place, there would be no crossing in other words, it would only be right-hand turns. There would be no RVs making traffic into oncoming traffic. But if this transaction does not happen, there will be maybe 50 or 75 or 100 per day of RVs with unlicensed drivers pulling a 42-foot-long RV crossing oncoming traffic right there. I just want to answer the question. Is that
And that's what was already approved by Jasper County.
that's correct? That's correct. So
But that's already been approved by the county.
that's correct. For us to make our egress here, if this transaction happens, and we would make our egress there. So back to my bigger point is in each of the other parks we've owned, we have seen the demand and we have built out to all that we can. So I'm just here to inform y'all that this, again, is not a growth or no growth. It's what type of growth. And in my opinion, there's much less footprint in every way with one building than there is with an incremental, an additional 170, because we're well on the way. We should be open in about 65 to 70 days for the 80 spaces in the back. The second quick point I wanted to make as far as basically the difference between the two is employment. In each of our other 3 parks that we're currently owning and operating, we have 1 full-time employee. And it works. It works quite well. I'm not in the warehouse business, but Doug, as I recall, I think the estimate was 40 to 50-ish employees. So just from an economic standpoint, it's 1 versus 40 or 50. That's for y'all to decide whether that's good or bad, but there's a huge difference between the two. And then I guess my last quick point, and I don't want to invite the tax man, but I will be open and share some numbers. In Somerville, that's our highest tax bill. We pay about $65,000 a year for annual property taxes on our Somerville Park. I'm not in the warehouse business, and I don't know what the millage and what the assessed value would be, but I've been around long enough to know it would probably be a multiple of what we pay on an RV park. And so the question, ultimately, in my mind, becomes, we're moving ahead with this. It is who is going to reap the benefits of it? Should it be Jasper County or should it be the city of Hardeeville? But this is one of these two things are going to happen, and I think with a very, very large amount of particularly over time taxable revenue.
But the bottom line is, we're not here to discuss the RV park. That's already been done. That's a done deal, correct?
It's fully permitted, absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
So what we're here today is for this development. That's what we're here to pass on.
I fully understand, but I was simply trying to draw the distinction that it is not warehouse or nothing. It is, that's all.
I understand.
I want to make that point. Any other questions of the seller?
Does anybody else have any public comment? Anybody else want to say anything? Do any of the commissioners have any more comments before we vote?
Yes, I wanted to say, 100% I agree with you. I don't like I said earlier, I don't like the traffic, but it's going to be a wash either way. Everything coming in there is going to be large. That's not the problem. The problem that I have is that it's not in the boundary, and if in Jasper County and Hardeeville, we are making big strides not to step on each other's feet. And I want that to be resolved. It's not the problem that you're putting a warehouse there. I don't have a problem with that at all. You've just got something that's there, that boundary is the problem, for me.
May I?
Yes, sir.
Richard, I appreciate your comments. I really do. And I think what you're saying is, because I know in the past that the city has gone outside of its boundary to annex in and zone specifically for industrial, I think it's called HCB Partners, which is 500 acres further south, was outside of the boundary line. So what I think I hear you saying is, I know we've done it in the past, but I'm not going to continue to let us do it. And I appreciate that point, but I just want to make sure that everybody understands that y'all have done it before.
And we put 10-foot buffer zones when we should have had 50. And we have to learn from our mistakes.
Okay.
And so what we need to do is vote.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we not approve today.
Second.
Okay, the motion is that we recommend to city council denial of this project. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, it's a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
I got another doctor's appointment. I gotta run.
The next item before the Planning Commission is consideration of an initial master plan for a parcel that is part of South Point, parcel 13, townhouses.
All right, good morning. For your consideration, there's initial master plan. The property is approximately outlined in this boundary, 55.74 acres. They're proposing 260 townhomes. This is the master plan that's before you. Oh, thanks. I was clicking. They are allotted 280 townhomes in this area. They're proposing a 50-foot buffer, no wetland impacts. Our concerns are with the active open space. Yeah. While trails are encouraged, it should be accessible and safe. And I will show you on the next page. The majority of the active open space is proposed back here, which is not really accessible to the whole community. What's going on here? I've got too much going on here, sorry.
I'm gonna put it where it needs to be. And then you can click there. Thank you. Just don't move it.
In reviewing this, the access is off of the Pine Arbor Road extension. The internal connectivity is also a concern. It's been conceptually reviewed, and there are, if you can go back to the previous one, I think. Yeah, so there's a dead end location right here that is really not consistent with the codes for the fire code, and I do have the fire marshal here as well. If that dead end could be eliminated and connected here to make more of a looping system, that would be more in the intent of the code. So they are in front of you for recommendation today. And then we do have some recommended conditions. So in order to meet the recommendations of the comprehensive plan, we do recommend that the buffer along I-95 remain completely undisturbed during development. Additional pocket parks be provided throughout the development. The fitness and park area be designed and located in a more visible, accessible, and safe manner. And the number of dead-end streets are removed to improve the internal road circulation by looping the road.
I'm gonna go back so you can show that.
Yeah.
Fitness area.
So again, the fitness area is back here. You would access it behind this cluster of townhomes here, and there's a trail throughout the development. You would go along this lagoon and through this power line easement to get back to this area. So that is, it's displaced from the majority of the units. You can tell. I mean, there's access to the amenities over here, but we really recommend that they scatter the active open space more throughout the development. We do appreciate the fact that they've added the additional visitor parking. Kind of, it's hard to see on this exhibit, but there's some here at the amenities, and there's some back here. Additionally, they do have sidewalk and trail network throughout the development and connecting to the future internal roadway. So we do appreciate that as part of this development, and the fact that they are not disturbing any of the wetlands. At this time, Willie, would you like to add anything?
Sure, I'll make a couple quick notes.
And just tell me which slides you like.
You're good. This is perfect. Actually, it's the green button.
Yeah.
Willie Powell with Ward Edwards Engineering. Katie did a good job kind of summarizing the overall plan. It is 260 townhome units is kind of the current proposal, which is down from the 280 that was originally allotted to this parcel as part of the South Point overall PDD. We do have that 50-foot buffer along the back here, which we are maintaining. The PDD does allow for that buffer to be utilized for any kind of maybe grading or drainage. And so we anticipate, our goal is to maintain it in full, but because of the rear lot lines, there may need to be a little bit of grading and drainage along the rear of these lots to make sure that they positively drain. The DOT has a number of outfalls along this roadway that come onto our property. And so we like to be like one of those kind of occurs right in this area. And so we want to be able to collect that and get it over to its original outfall at the wetlands without bringing it through our site. And so, there may be a little bit of a rear swale or piping to allow that 95 drainage to be conveyed. But we would work with staff to, replant or revegetate any areas that are, right behind the lots to bring it back up to the city code to kind of match what the original PDD allowed for. I would also note that the dead end streets, primarily this one, we do have parking along those. And so for us, it kind of served a dual purpose, which was to provide access to these units, provide a little bit of a quieter area for these units, and also to provide additional community parking. So you see there's parking on this block and there's parking on that block there. We could even look at maybe adding a little bit of parking on this block too, if that were to help support some of the trail activities. The site's a little bit unique in that the wetland really comes up and almost cuts it off. And so for us, we were trying to figure out how best to use this portion of the property. And for us, it felt like, putting in this type of trail network really took advantage of the property more so than just kind of, left it empty and unused. So for us, it was almost more of a way to activate this area more so than kind of just let it lie. It's a little bit of we can't really get vehicular access into it because of the wetland pinch point right here. And we certainly couldn't use it for any kind of density. So for us, it allowed it to really be kind of activated and opened on that end. So, and down here, we actually looked at trying to bring a road around a little bit, but the elevations of the wetland right here, we struggled with how best to do that. From a pocket park standpoint, we do have other kind of green spaces that are kind of, we got some here, a nice little, spot right there. And even, this is kind of a large easement area. We could even look at trying to maybe, activate or open up those with some type of, pet way stations or some type of trail, whatever, would be suitable to the commission. So, but I don't think I have any other comments or questions, but I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of those things that we have looked at those, and we tried to we think, do our best to accommodate some of those kind of questions and concerns. So, anything else from our team? Thank you.
Rick, can I start?
Right where the lower left at your park there, I'm assuming that is right where the overpass, right past that pinch point will be the overpass.
Correct. This little piece right here, John
Ye-
Smith Road, and
yes.
comes up and crosses over 95.
And so now your walkway, you're wanting to put it through that power line easement there. Okay, so everything from the bottom all the way to the first house, I don't like. And then I need the fire chief to tell me he is satisfied with that dead end. And if not, I want him to be satisfied with whatever plan we come up with. But
Chief Rowell?
And just stepping back, I'm concerned because it's so far away from everybody. And then if you put any amenities in there that far away, you're going to attract people, but it might not be the people from that development. And I think it could be a safety issue. I could sprinkle corn out there and I'd get deer, or I could put amenities and I'll get vagrancy. That's my concern with that. And Chief.
Absolutely. Good morning. With our initial review of this, I will tell you that we looked through it. The dead ends, they do meet the prescriptive things of the code, but with that being said, the practicality of it is not there for us the way that this is laid out with multiple dead end streets throughout the community. We would like to see more continuity to where we're able to navigate through there, because if you take in consideration the parking and other things on these dead end roads, it makes it a little bit cumbersome if everybody's doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. But to lay out the grids for fire protection and other things, for it to be more circulating throughout the community would be best practices. I'm not a fan of all of the dead ends throughout the community, and I know that we looked at it as our reviews with some of the other concerns, and we obviously know there may be some changes that will be needed to here. But in this conception, we're not satisfied with all the dead ends.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Sorry. So the very left of the trail park, is that not one other parcel, or is that John Smith Road?
So
Is there anything we could zoom out?
There's a triangle right there of right of way.
Okay.
Where basically the 95 and John Smith Road come together. There you go. So that's that parcel, and actually it's all right of way.
Okay. I remembered something in this when South Point was going through everything. There was talk of a storage facility going in the far left parcel.
That is right, and this is called parcel 18.
Okay.
Off of John Smith Road, so it's kind of right in that area. In fact, that has already been platted as such for parcel 18, so it's right there.
Okay. I was just trying to make sure I understood my boundaries on where everything was. On the townhomes themselves, are those going to be individually owned? Is it leased?
Yes, they're fee simple. They'll be platted as individual lots, fee simple.
Okay, perfect. And then, yeah, obviously concerned too, with the connectivity. I'm not by far a designer or anything like that, but it's interesting to kind of see how that is. I do like trails, being former on the Recreation Advisory Committee. I love park trails. I love how it kind of goes through the woods. I don't know if there's a connectivity, if there's bridges or a combination of everything on that. So I personally don't have a problem with that kind of getting away, but yes, it is very far. I don't know what the total distance from like the front of the neighborhood is, but it's from someone, riding bikes or walking, it's a nice little loop that you could potentially do. And then when you were talking about the outfall from Interstate 95, I'm assuming that's going under the development and going to surface up?
We are going to collect it. It's coming toward us off of the interstate, and then we're going to be able to collect it. And there's a kind of a ditch that runs through the wetland, getting down to the larger piece here. So we're gonna get it around into that. It's kind of that little gap for right there is. This allows us to collect that and get it over to the wetland where it's currently going.
But that's going to be a visible ditch, or is that going to be a
We'll
in-ground
probably
pipe?
close it in a pipe, just so it's not open ditch for
Okay.
our neighborhood, where that's a little TBD. And
Okay.
how final grading works out, so, but I think the intent would be to continue piping it. Actually, well, the pipe stops before the right of way, and then it kind of ditches from there, kind of meanders into the wetland. But I would assume we probably would convey it just from a cleanliness and a kind of having it contained, so.
Okay. And then you've got, that's 50-foot buffer from the back of the building, the townhomes, is that correct?
Back of the lot line, so there's that little line that's right there, that's the 50-foot line from the right-of-way line. So the lots have a little extra depth on them because of this, but we understand the request to keep it undisturbed, but we want to make sure we have the ability to do any kind of grading or drainage on the back of those lots. Because of the way that the property falls, it kind of falls toward us a little bit, and it will be built up for these. We'll need to kind of grade ourselves back toward away from the homes, and the ability to properly kind of collect and convey that without having kind of drainage issues or concerns. So it's more mainly the first 5, maybe 10-foot total of the buffer, just to allow that grading or drainage to occur back there.
So you're saying that, so out of the 50 feet, you could essentially keep 40 foot undisturbed? Is that what you're?
I think that would be fair. We need to do the final grading, but I think that seems pretty reasonable, which would be a kind of a 20-foot easement set on the lot line, so 10 foot and 10 foot.
What is our ordinance? Do we have anything in place that says what, if we have undisturbed or disturbed or?
It's the green button.
So if this was, it would depend on what zoning district it was in. If it was straight zoning, it would be, you could remove the trees and replant, but it would only be 10 or 15-foot depth. That would be the minimum requirement with straight zoning. So that's why these PDDs, we can enhance the requirements.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that would be, I mean, as a homeowner, obviously the more natural, I did not realize that this parcel was designated for townhomes. I was kind of surprised by that because anything that close to 95, to hear all that traffic, I mean, and the construction and everything that's getting ready to go on, I was thinking we were getting more commercial stuff in that kind of area along 95, and the residential would be closer in. So that's just me learning more about this role. But yeah, I would definitely want to make sure that we maintain as much as possible as undisturbed, just to not see that 95 traffic along the lines. Because once you have the property line, how much further is that till you actually hit 95 asphalt? Right, once the third lane comes, do you know?
I don't actually. That's something we could track down for council, but it's
Third lane
Going in the middle.
that's going in the middle, so it's not adding anything more on the right
It's
side.
probably 120 to 150 feet. I mean, if I just my quick scale of 50, probably 100, maybe 120 or so. Looking at that.
And those are current trees right now too, right? So this would be in addition to the current tree line, okay.
Correct.
I believe that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. The area where the trail and the parks are there that goes beyond the houses, from that last townhouse, is that paved road, or is that, what would that be that goes back to the trail?
It's really more, I guess, your discretion.
Adrian Shatrowski with 4-Star, the development partner. That is a detail we haven't gotten down to yet. However, we do have a video to show another trail that we did that's similar. We did this in our Leland, North Carolina project. We left a lot of trees and did a meandering trail through there with the exercise equipment. So hopefully technology is working. We're gonna try one.
It's right there.
So this one, we did like a plantation.
Metal
mix.
edging with a little plantation there. intent was to have it kind of as like a park course where you have the exercise equipment, and you pull up bars, and then next station, actually you can see right there, next station down would have
It takes a minute to
incline.
get there, but
that,
they're getting there. Yeah, so this is. So we typically do pull-up bars, sit-up benches, Roman chair, or I think they're called Roman chairs, something to get the abs working, and just spread them out so people can get some exercise along with their walk.
And who will be responsible for maintaining that, the HOA?
So, and we typically do standing, not moving parks to help make sure that the cost isn't crazy for homeowners to maintain.
Okay, do you know what the distance is, that trail, if you were to walk from that starting point at the end of the townhouses around and back? Do you know what that would be?
Great question.
That's actually a good question. Let me see. I put my sturdy scale on again. I'd say quarter mile, maybe not quite that far. I just did 12 100s based on my loop, which is I think about just under a quarter mile.
And you, in this configuration, you've added some of these off-street parking little lots there.
Yes, sir, we have. So there's formalized parking along this pocket park here, and then also here, and then also for the amenity plus the pocket areas there. And then these stubs, dead-end areas, also have pull-in parking here and pull-in parking up here to help provide the community with additional visitor parking in addition to the driveways.
Yeah, so you can't park on the street.
No, sir. There's no parking on the streets, and there's no other parallel parking allotted to them. So, correct. And the curb and gutter, standard curb and gutter, to also help to prevent people from just pulling up on the front yards.
I'm interested in maybe based on other places that you've done something like this, but in that area, that street that's closest to the trail, I'm assuming that there's going to be, on occasion, a number of people that would drive to get closer to the walking trail.
Parking up there.
We have the parking that's here, and I think we could actually add a little bit of parking along that edge. I think right now it's not currently shown because of that drainage, that widening of that gap right there, kind of end up losing the parking there, but I think we can look at adding that.
And there's significant parking
Right
right there.
there. We actually,
What is that? How many spaces do you think you'd have there?
that's 8 right there. I think we could look at, which is the max we could do in a run. So we could certainly look at, I think, adding a little bit more across this frontage if we wanted to.
Right, and another concern is that that's sort of located, and Rick sort of mentioned this, that's sort of located away from the majority of your homes there. And in fact, they won't, if you're on your, what I'm calling the first street there, you would, I don't know how aware you would be. I mean, you'd be aware that it was there, but you'd never see it. Is that, I mean, I know you said that you were using the area that's there, making good use of it, but I wonder how much that serves the recreational needs of the community itself. So sort of away from the community.
And absolutely, the fitness circuit was an addition to the trail that, because we started doing it and people really enjoyed it. So it's not mandatory to do it there. We can put some benches and just leave it as a walking trail. Absolutely.
Well, I guess my concern though is providing active open space for the townhouses there. And I realize that's all part of one parcel, but it is sort of at the very end and away from the majority of the townhouses.
I would say the first half, the trail around the amenity, the trail around the the pond really services the first half, and then the second half would benefit more from the trail. That's how I can visualize it.
What exactly is the amenity?
The amenity that we're looking at would be a pool and a pavilion. And we typically put in playgrounds and dog stations and benches, arbor swings around places. We plan up front, but then a lot of times when we get into when we're getting done with all the grading, you get a better feel for what's needed, and that's where we kind of add in the extra arbor swings, or in one of our projects, we added multiple benches that look on the ponds, and then we landscape trees around it to give them shade. So a lot of times when we're planning for the amenity and the pocket parks, but we typically add in additional things.
Well, that's interesting because, I mean, one of the things that the staff was obviously concerned about was the possibility of having pocket parks closer to that mass of the townhouses. Do you have a reaction to that?
I think our original intent was as Adrian mentioned, we kind of have, almost like bookend style of, active areas. We have an active area up front and active area in the back, and then this little pocket park is also opened up as well. And then also have, a little one there as well. So we felt like we kind of had two bookends and then had a couple little spots to kind of fill in the gaps in between them. So, we actually really like this area back in the back as part of the overall, concept and plan.
I really like the idea of pocket parks up, at that end, which would possibly or probably, I guess, require you to take out a little section of houses, which I recognize is a profit problem, but, what would your feeling be about additional pocket parks or an additional pocket park up at that end?
I guess, what's your definition of pocket park?
Well, I don't know what size that means, but, something more than a individual lot or two. I mean, and there, as I'm looking at it, what I'm thinking, I don't have a definition, but as I'm looking at it, whether you have, I guess, groups of like 6, is that?
You kind of in this area or more like in the?
Well, probably farther to the,
Right.
is that east? I don't know.
It's north, yeah, it's
Whatever, farther,
45.
yeah.
So more, you mean like in this?
Sure, or maybe at the that back row, maybe you take one of those.
Corner there, right there?
No, I mean,
Able to-
I mean closer to 95.
Okay.
Oh,
That back area, take something like that, something that would get closer to the mass of townhouses. I mean, this is pulled down sort of, you're sort of a triangle there. And as you get closer to the angle, it gets narrower, meaning fewer townhouses. Where you have the big collection of townhouses, it's less likely that they will be using the larger area there where the trail and park course and so on would be.
Almost like, trying to make this as a wider opening like this almost.
Yeah, I mean, I
Just
don't,
like to- yeah.
I don't have enough knowledge, I guess, to figure out like a distance, but, it seems like some of those are 1, 2, 3, or 6 units attached. Would you add 1 unit to each thing on the side and take the middle, make it a pocket park? I mean, I don't know what the
Yeah.
building implications of that is, but some area that you might locate a pocket park. What I'm trying to address, I guess, is this. In the recommendation from staff, the idea would be to say additional pocket parks. And what I would like to do is to be a little more specific. Like the recommendation would be, one or more pocket parks in this area. I'm not sure exactly how to state that, but rather than just saying an additional pocket park, which you could make, in the area where you already have the park.
What are your thoughts? I know you were looking up here. What are your thoughts right here? Is there, I'm assuming there's an opening there, right?
There
There
is.
Would there be an issue with putting a playground here or some sort of?
Right in the middle.
I don't
On
think
the
so.
left, what is that park going to be on the left of that, towards the fitness trail?
The little triangle, the one on the.
That says park.
It says park on it?
Yeah, what is your idea there? Is that going to be like a playground swing set, or is that going to be open area for kicking?
It's likely going to be open area and probably, arbor swing or bench around the pond.
So is there any spot there for playground, swing sets, anything like that, or what's your initial thought on where that is?
The initial thought is we kind of put everything together. I
The
don't know.
pool, and then to the right or left of it would be
Yeah,
the,
I don't know exactly the size because they need certain areas depending on what sort of playground they put in. Can also do,
All right, I'm just gonna, I was gonna give you some thoughts.
we could also, lost my train of thought. There's other things that the playground companies offer, so you don't have to, we could do a larger playground here. And then here they have things that look like logs that the children can walk in and stand on that my child tries to fall off of constantly. So there's different options to do like smaller things that aren't just a playground structure. So crawling areas, something like that.
Mr. Woman, may I make a?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I
that's
didn't
okay.
realize when I stood up, I was right in your face. I think one of the things, and you're looking at staff's comments, and Katie and I have talked a lot about this project and with other members of staff as well, not just us. But and you mentioned the massive buildings, and I think that is one thing that I'm thinking this area, Katie, this area and this area. It just seems like there's a massive buildings and some kind of breakup. I live in tight quarters or not attached housing, but very close to it. And while you do it for a reason, you don't want the yard upkeep, you don't want all of that, but you do want that sense of you have some space and you have a chance to, and I think I've heard council mention it before, you want to be able to enjoy a open space, let kids have a little pickup game or something, just watch kids play all the time. That's the kind of thing. The thing I worry about in this area is if we're trying to figure out some circulation for the fire department, and so maybe some options would be to come up with some different concepts and some ideas. Maybe that would be the condition to just investigate it. Maybe you can't work it out, maybe you can, but just try to address those a little bit better. That's really what we're trying to look forward to.
Okay, and then I did want to ask about the chief's concerns about the roadway and the connections. I live on a cul-de-sac, and, I wouldn't say I worry about it, but, I recognize that it's a cul-de-sac that goes into another street that ends in a cul-de-sac, and that, that for those two cul-de-sacs, from an emergency point of view, if something happened that blocked us before the turnoff, that our whole street would be hard to reach. And that's a very legitimate concern that the chief raises. Is there a way that we could change the circulation? And again, I know we're probably talking about costing you a couple of houses, but
It's something we can certainly look into. I think we actually looked at it a little bit from the other end, which is the quieter nature of the end of a street, and then also allowing us to add some parking along it too to help sporadically provide some community parking. So I think for us it was almost like the inverse. thinking about it that way, like it's more of an amenity slash advantage for that very reason. Just that these become quieter and a little more private in that regard. We did try to adhere to the required distances and roadway specifications, but we certainly can look into it and just see what options may be out there. I got just the elevation drops along the wetland edge. We're trying to keep as much road off of that as possible. So, but you can look into it.
You want me to? Yeah, I think we got one more.
I think as,
Some help.
as you look into this, you should, in the staff report, we define the active open space. It should be easily accessible for the intended user, and it should be designed to be safe and encourage use with considerations for safety features and visibility.
That's for the complex.
Number one, that power line has to be maintained. And it's maintained by heavy equipment. You put a walkway across there, it's not gonna exist. Number two, open space, the reason we wanted open space was taking all the open space and putting it on the outside of any project is not a good idea. I know you're worried about that road going there with the density or making it a little quieter, but looking at the rest of it, nobody else will be afforded anything other than a house sitting next to it. That land should be, that open space should be over here on this project. That was the intent of open space, the way I see open space. We've taken land that we can't use for anything and said, we'll put all the open space there and put more density here. That layout is way too tight to be considered. I wouldn't be happy with that. And I know you might sell it, but it doesn't meet what I consider open space. And then the walkway's going, I don't know how many feet it is to that, from that house there to the 50-foot buffer. It looks pretty small. And then the other thing is, we're saying 50-foot buffer, but then possibly putting a swale in for drainage. That's fine, but I want to see 10-foot for the swale and then 40-foot in the plan, and it needs to stick to that, because funny thing happens if we say, well, as much as we can, spare as much as we can, becomes whatever you could. When we go back to measure it, we want to look and say, no, it's there, 40-foot and 10-foot swale. You can't disturb the 10-foot swale, and you better not mess with the other. But the way we've been described today, that's too many. That's a loophole. That's not a plan. If we say 50, 40 of it do not disturb, and a 10-foot swale, that's the way I want to see it. We can't leave this stuff open anymore like this. Open-ended is not something I want to see. It causes too many problems in this community. And that's what I'm concerned with, really. Looking at that, we're concerned about density. And we're taking all the open space and throwing it not only way out of where it should be, but across the power line easement. And we're saying we're going to put a cart path or a path across it. It won't be there next year because they have to maintain that power line, and I know how they do that. So I say, and then along with the roadways, this whole thing needs to be redone, in my opinion. That's it.
I think two things to kind of keep in mind is that we actually are, I know it may feel a little dense, but we actually are, 10% or so, underneath what the original allocation was for the parcel when it was master planned and thought through on the front end. So we actually came in 20 units underneath that threshold, and then we just did the buffer. I agree trying to keep it as undisturbed as possible, but we were trying to also meet the overall PDD, which we're bound to, which is more of a landscaped slash separation buffer more so than anything else. So that's part of the perimeter PDD buffer. So I agree for us, trying to do our best to keep that undisturbed, but we're also trying to achieve what was our guidelines from the PDD. So
For me, though, on the side of I-95, with the traffic that you're already going to have, I think you're getting away really good if that got approved as it is, not having to put what I see in other houses right next to I-95. I would think that'd be the minimum, and I want it to be solid. I want it to be where we can go and measure it, and I don't want it to be, well, I know, but we had to do this.
What is, if we approve it, obviously with some changes and stuff like that, city council approves for a second reading, what's your timeline? Are you guys, because I don't think any clearing has started in that general area yet. What is your timeline on townhomes being built?
the master infrastructure for the South Point at large is finalizing its city permits. We're going through some work on it with them. I think the intent was for it to possibly start before the end of '25. So that way, then ideally, this would, by the time it gets through its entitlements and it goes through its design and permitting process, would kind of line up with that same schedule. So that way, those services have been provided and operational for it. So
2027, 2028 kind
I
of?
would think construction would want to start sometime in '26. And then, I don't know, duration of that, it may take,
We're looking, we typically, for the first phase, we're gonna do a 15-month development, just because it's the first one's always, gotta get into it, you gotta figure, things come up, so you gotta figure it out, and then you have to close out on the back end. So we usually say 15 months. We would do the first phase, we would do the site work of the amenity, and then start the vertical between phase 1 and phase 2, just because depending on how the timeline falls, that's when we would go vertical with that. So I believe we have this set up in 3 phases.
okay. I think that the loop certainly allows you to kind of do it in.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the lot count is, but it would be 3 phases. So it would be 15 months for the first phase and then 12 months for the subsequent phases.
And then as far as like the traffic flow, right where it says park, would there be a way or possible to invert those townhomes to where their backs of the houses are facing the park and the road continues up around so it connects that one dead end? Like just to invert them, I don't know logistically on that, but it seems like if you could get that road to connect and just make a loop, invert those townhomes, you're not losing, potentially you might lose 1 or 2, but just bringing the road on the east side, I believe that's east, of the townhomes versus, and I feel like that would fix at least one of the dead ends or get rid of one of the dead ends.
Almost like trying to take this piece and bring it back around.
No, yep, it would go around the back side left, the back, yep, behind those, to move those up to the park, make the back of the houses face the park, and then you could potentially have dog park, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would at least solve one dead end, which seems to be probably one of the larger potential issues there. Or just a thought. I don't
And
know.
then open that park up as a larger park.
Correct. And then you have a little bit more.
Actually.
Correct. Because then you've got the backyard space and everything else. So. Don't worry, I don't charge for that.
We're in good.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, is there any public comment? Anybody in the audience want to make any statement or ask any questions? If not, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the proposed, with some changes, with some recommendations, right? So I'd like to know the exact undisturbed amount of buffer, right? So if you need 10 feet, but then as Rick said, if it ends up being 20 feet, we just need to know so that when this goes to city council, they have an understanding of what's going to be undisturbed, what is absolutely possible to maintain. I'm a big supporter of keeping the trees, but I'm also a big supporter of development, growth, as we do it proper, as we talk about infrastructure and everything else. I would like to see that that road kind of reconfigured. I'd like to possibly see about inverting that, making that green space a little bit bigger. That might solve a little bit more. On that right side of those homes where it had that V, I think it was, if you want to, looking where you had originally talked about potentially a smaller area, potentially for a pocket park.
That little spot right there.
Yeah. And then I feel that there is a concern with the power easement that Rick had talked about as well. Because there's no power lines on there currently, right? They just cleared all that?
I think they cleared this parcel off-site as part of the 95.
To the left.
Those lines have been there.
Okay, those are active lines right there.
They added to the clearing.
Okay, so just understanding of what is that actually going to look like, and who's going to maintain that area. So if they are having to come through with heavy equipment, if we have big storms and stuff like that,
Yeah.
what's the kind of the plan for that? So that would be my recommendation to approve with those changes, and I think that, kind of reconfiguring a couple things, I think we've got a good option there.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
The issues are too big for me. Even though I know you own the property, but it's not useful, to me, it's not useful for this project. Everything left, that power line. There's too many problems with, that the chief needs to be satisfied with. I think you brought a very good point of bringing that down. That wouldn't cost you anything, quickly, but there's too many concerns. I'd like to see it come back in a better form before it goes, because I don't want the council to be mistaken that we're truly satisfied. We're too far away from being satisfied to just prove with this and let it go. I would want this to come back.
So do we workshop this again then?
Well,
Is that, because you get a vote too?
In order for us to further discuss it, I'll second the motion, but I would also like to add a condition, if it's acceptable to the maker of the motion, where the condition says additional pocket parks be provided throughout the development. I'd like to say additional pocket parks be provided within the cluster of townhouse area. It's not a very good definition. Maybe the staff can make that better, but you know what I mean.
The highest density of townhomes?
Yeah, anywhere in that,
Square along that.
The back wall?
Break up that run. Some
or the, and the,
lower.
yep. I'm just trying to make sure that we define it enough that the pocket parks, are in the general area that we want. And I'd like to also include with that,
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
and I'd like to include as part of that condition, that the active open space requirement be satisfied within the cluster of townhouse area.
So the side of the easement,
Well,
to the right of the easement.
to the right of the easement, but starting with the first townhouse area.
Okay,
I mean, that's what I'm really trying to get it into the townhouses.
okay, understood.
And maybe, probably they can come up with better language than that. But so I'm really saying additional pocket parks in that area, and that the open space requirement be satisfied within that area.
Okay,
Is that
understood.
acceptable?
That is acceptable for
Does
motion
that
to
solve your
approve.
problem at all? I know it doesn't solve the,
Absolutely, 100.
Okay.
There you go.
is there any other comment or further discussion? If not all,
Go ahead, sir.
if not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes.
I want to let everyone know that this will be going to October the 4th. September 4th.
No. It's October.
It's the first Thursday in October rather than
October 2nd.
October 7th.
For first reading or for workshop?
First reading.
Okay.
We'll let you know about workshop.
Okay,
So, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate
thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the planning report.
Yeah. The notes are for me.
I got it.
You get a 5-minute
Thank you.
recess?
So we wanted to update you on the joint planning workshop, which you were in attendance. But I think it was a very good opportunity to get together with Ridgeland and Jasper County. I'm glad we had all three groups together. We have made a lot of progress since then on sharing of email addresses and sharing of agendas, and I hope you've been getting and receiving things, and we have certainly been sharing from our end as well. So I think there's been a lot more communication from the staff level to the planning commission. And the other thing was at that was the consideration of an appointment to serve as a liaison. And so that's before you today. You can certainly consider that today, or you can make an effort to table it and bring it back to our next meeting when you have more planning commissioners. Either way, staff's supportive of helping you in any way we can on that.
Can we recommend somebody that's not here?
Let me say at this point, what's the pleasure of the members? You want to do something about today, or?
I think we should table it when we have a full, unless there's someone here that wants to immediately volunteer for it. Okay.
I think tabling for everybody to be present is a good idea. We definitely want it on the agenda next time. We definitely want to do it, but
Go ahead and do a motion for us, and that way we'll make sure
sure.
we put it on there.
Is there a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table that to the next agenda meeting.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Right. Real quick, current planning project update. We, as you can see, the Memorial Park has started down the street. The I-95 widening groundbreaking took place. Branna and I are participating in a transportation resilience improvement plan. I did send you the survey. If you could take that, that'd be very helpful and share with anybody who might be interested. As far as recent applications, your notification process will be discussed at the workshop tomorrow.
Perfect.
Okay. Commissioner comments.
I have none at this time.
I think everything today went very well. Very impressed.
Thank you. I want to just say a real thank you to the staff for putting that joint meeting together. You know, we've been talking about that for such a long time, and I really think, you know, it took a long time to get it together, but maybe this was the most propitious time to do that because, you know, we have new players at a number of levels in the municipalities, and I think everybody is really very amenable to this idea of us working together, notifying each other, listening to comments, and you know, and trying to do it in a courteous way. And there have been problems in the past, and you know, if we can accomplish that, I think that's I think that is a real achievement, a real step forward for all of the municipalities. And you know, one of the things that was talked about at that meeting was the idea of coming up with actionable areas where we can accomplish something by getting the three groups together. At the meeting, the example had been the tree ordinance. And you can see where, you know, if one of the things we want to do regionally is make sure that we maintain our tree culture and our, you know, the beauty of all the trees that are in the community, you have to do it regionally. It can't be just one. And, you know, I've been thinking about things like sign ordinances or overlay districts that don't really appropriately stop at the boundary of a municipality. So in the future, when we get together, I think that that's the kind of things we can really act upon. And I know that our staff is going to look at some of those issues to come up with some ideas for things that we might try to achieve in an organization like that, which I'm really excited about that. So I really want to thank you for that. And if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.